Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Kashif Kamran, the SBL tutor. And today I'm discussing with you the key issues in SBL as emphasized or mentioned in the December 2023 examiner report. The examiner report for December 23 has emphasized on 6 main issues which were identified from the December 23 exam setting and which are extremely important for the students appearing for the March 2024 exams. The first issue: many candidates made insufficient use of the information which was presented in the exam exhibits to support their answers, despite these being key to generating relevant points to use in their answers. Now, this is a very important point being identified from the examining team, that the students are not making a sufficient use of the information which is presented to them in the exam exhibits. The information which is presented to you in the exam exhibit is important. You cannot just ignore that, because the answer will be developed from the information which is given in the particular exhibit on the day of exam. You cannot just say that I'll develop my 100% answer from the pre-seen content and I'll not be touching upon any relevant exhibits on the day of exam. It's just the vice versa. The relevant exhibits on the day of exam makes the most of your answer. The pre-seen content is just making you familiar with the context of the case study. So examiner is very unhappy with students in December 23 that they're not using or not utilizing the information within the exhibit when they are generating the relevant points or supporting their answer. Number two, some candidates continue to answer the task they wish had been set. This is very interesting, right? Rather than the task actually set in the exam. They just look at the terms like integrated reporting, and they just see, oh, this is the question perhaps on the 6 capitals of integrated reporting. Or they just look at a question, they just look at the terminology cybersecurity, and they think, oh, this is the question where I need to write the advantages and disadvantages of cybersecurity. You cannot just uh, try to answer the question the way you wish to answer it. Rather than, you need to look into the requirement very well, and you need to see what is the requirement expecting from you, and you need to do that. Examining team is saying this is a common trait often leads to exam failure. So please ensure that you read the requirement fully, you understand the requirement fully, and you understand what the requirement is expecting from you, rather than you're trying to answer the requirement as you wish, which is definitely a failure in any exam, including SBL. Number three, simply copy and pasting pre-seen and exam exhibit information into the answer with little or no attempt to relate the content to the question set. So adding no further value. If you're just simply copy pasting from pre-seen or from the exam exhibit and dumping that copy paste into your response section with little or no attempt to add value, not even linking it to the requirement, not even explaining it in the context of the requirement, that copy paste alone is useless. The SBL examining team is not denying that you should not copy paste, but alone copy paste with no addition, with no explanation, with no elaboration, with no connection to the case study, with no connection to the exam requirement is useless. So these are the first 3 of the 6 issues being emphasized in the examiner report: insufficient use of information in the exhibit. Number two, you're answering the task the way you wish to answer it, not looking at what the examining team is expecting from you, and then copy pasting information, not making use of it. Number fourth, there was insufficient application of the relevant information provided in the exam in answers and an inability to sufficiently develop point in support of the argument. Insufficient application of the relevant information, or not sufficiently developing your point. You pick up a point from a case study, you identify a point from a case study, and students are mostly good into that. But once you identify a point, developing the point, explaining the point or elaborating the point in context of the exam requirement, or giving arguments or giving judgments, uh, doing a proper analysis, trying to give examples relevant from the case study to develop your point, thinking about why the point is significant, or thinking about what is the consequence as been asked for in the requirement, to develop your point in a sufficient depth. So insufficient application and not sufficiently developing your point. We know that each well-developed point in SPL is fetching you 2 marks, but the point has to be well-developed. I'll be doing a session separately on a well-developed point, which will guide you about what are fundamentals of a well-developed point. But examiner is very unhappy with the student not developing the point sufficiently well. Number 5, there was evidence of the use of rote learned pre-prepared answers that were solely based on the pre-seen information, regardless of the question asked. Rote learned answers. Because when you are reading the pre-seen, something which is wrong, and I'll be doing that session on pre-seen. Something which is wrong is that you spot questions from pre-seen. You start thinking about the likely questions from pre-seen. And then once the student knows the likely questions from pre-seen, you just start to go through those questions. You just start to rote learn the question and the answers. And the students are very good into rote learning. And on the day of exam, they're not even bothered about looking what the question is asking. They just want to reproduce the rote learn stuff or knowledge into the answer area, or just padding up their answers with unnecessary, irrelevant information, which is of no use. So uh, rote learning from the pre-scene is something which is making the examining team unhappy, and I will be specifically addressing that area of rote learning from the pre-scene in a separate session. And the final one, poor command of the English language. We know English language, ACC papers are held in different geographical diversity. So uh, we know there might be many students for which English is not their first language. But yes, when you're reading the articles, you're reading the books, you are taking a course of a tutor, you're going through notes, you're reading the case study, you are solving the answers, reading the questions. This is all in English. At least develop sufficient ability to answer in a good English language. Words, vocabulary. Now, a student says, how would I learn vocabulary? When you're reading the articles, there are so good terminologies used in examiner articles. You can just uh, look into the synonyms. You can build up your word meanings. You can learn from them. It's not just helping you with the SBL exam. It's helping you with your real life as well in your job context. So when you're reading through the books or reading through the articles, trying to understand the words, trying to look into the meanings of those words so that you can just absorb those words in your mind. When you're writing the answers, using the proper terminology, at least the terminology has been used in the case study, uh, and writing the answer in an English language which is understandable. You don't need the hi-fi standards of English language here, but at least the English language, which if I am reading when I'm reviewing your answers as a tutor, or when the marking team is reviewing, when they are reviewing your answer as a marking team, at least makes sense, and we can understand what you're writing. But if your English is not of that caliber that you can at least communicate your mindset, then how would the marking team understand what you're trying to write? So please ensure you develop your skills around jargons, using specific terminologies, which you can build upon when you're preparing yourself for SPL. It's not just like you're preparing yourself in like a week time. You had good 2-3 months to prepare for each exam sitting. And in that case, it's very, very important that you build upon your English skills. When you're solving answers at home, when you're reading questions at home and reading case studies at home, I think this is something which can be built up very easily. So these are 6 reasons or 6 main issues which the SBL examining team did identify from the December 23 exam setting. If you can spend time on each one of them and just assure that you're not doing the same mistake ahead of your March 24 exams, This will contribute significantly to your success in the upcoming exam. I'm Kashif Kamran signing off from this particular session about the key issues in SBL. Take care, goodbye, and Allah Hafiz.